Zone, and we speak life into the community. Please follow us on WCEGTalkradio.com. I am your host, Attorney Melanie LaGrone, the host of Beyond the Border, where for the next 30 minutes, we are going to speak all things immigration. Disclaimer for everyone, okay? The topics and the opinions are those of the show host and guest and not of WCEG Network. And we want to thank you all again for your continued support. All right. So, okay. Awesome. All right, you guys. So we're going to get into it. We're going to get into immigration. As you already know, and things that I don't even have to discuss, there have been a million, obviously, the executive orders that have been signed by the new administration. None of them good, of course. And I'm not even going to go into them. All right. At the end of the day, I am going to specifically talk about some of the things that affect you right this minute, that are very, very important that you need to know and understand. All right. So first of all, we have the alien registration. Once again, don't forget they have now incorporated the name alien once again. All right. So we have the alien registration. I need for you to understand that the alien registration is mandatory. Now, what I have been telling, look, for all of clients, potential clients, everyone in the US that this affects, all right, it's twofold because there's pros and cons, and we basically can't tell you not to register because you will definitely get in trouble if you don't register, okay? But at the end of the day, I'm just going to give you pros and cons of registering. And yes, this is everything that you're thinking that it is, all right? It is a way for the administration to have everybody who has come to the United States illegally, which means that you don't have status or you cross the border, or you might have a pending application right now, okay, but you still don't have a lawful permanent resident status, you don't have a green card. It is for them to know where you are. End of discussion. Like, it is for them to know where you are at all times, your addresses, whether you're employed, your family information, where they live, all of that, okay? And I do want you guys to think back, what does this sound like, okay? Way back, all right? 40s, 60s, there was a gentleman, okay, who did the same thing with another group of people, and they had to register so that he could figure out all of where they are so that he can then send them away in concentration camps, okay? This is the same identical thing, all right? This administration is making sure that they know where all undocumented people are, all immigrants that have come to the United States that did not cross the border with a valid visa, so that ultimately they can find you and deport you, when the time comes. Everything that's being done, this poses a huge threat, you guys, to our democracy. Everything that we know to be in America, everything that we've grown this world on, the Constitution, the Fifth Amendment, due process, all of that is being wiped away right now. We've got, Supreme Court justices' opinions and orders that are not being adhered to. The separation of powers is now almost debunked. Like, there's nobody that can, or they're trying to make it so that nobody can check. Okay, the new administration, the new man upstairs. This is what the world was built on, right? The Constitution, America. This is what we are. This is what we have been. And it is all being dismantled one by one by one. And understand that the immigration population, it's a start, okay? That's more or less like the carrot that you see, okay, that's being dangled in your face, knowing what's going on there. But understand there's so much going on in the background, so much going on behind the scenes, so much going on in other areas that, yes, we're focusing on immigration, but also to understand that there's things that you aren't seeing that will pop up at the end of the day, and you're going to be like, what the heck happened? Like, why did that happen? So with the alien registration, I'm going to go back to that. Like I said, it took effect April 11th of 2025. And there is online, you can see, I believe it's at USCIS.gov. Um, I believe that's where the website is. That's where you have to go on and do it. But you'll see who has to do it, who does not have to do it. Okay. Because there are some people that are already in the system. So if you're, already in removal proceedings, things like that, they obviously have all of your information. They have your alien number. They have all of that. But if you are just here, nobody, let's say, knows that you're here. Okay. Um, you are definitely one of the people that have to register. Next thing is the whole deportation removal. As you all know, probably too, because you've been listening to the news. Like I said, everything is all in the news. Some things are really, really skewed, you guys. So you do have to do your research. If you are undocumented, if you are in the process of getting a green card, if you have not started your process yet, but you have a legal way to stay, you need to reach out to an immigration attorney so that you can figure out your options. And something that everyone who follows me and follows the network and follows my social media, I will tell you, you don't have to reach out to me, okay? I want you to reach out to anybody, any reputable immigration attorney to make sure that you figure out what your options are to move forward. Most importantly, now is not the time to put your head in the sand. Now is not the time to say, oh, it'll go away, or oh, this doesn't affect me, or anything like that. Now is the time to actually step up and start making decisions that are going to be right and proper for you and your family. Um, One thing that I want to talk about is um, the deportation right now that was going on with Venezuelans, and they were being sent to El Salvador. Once again, totally against due process, totally against their Fifth Amendment right, okay? Anyone in the United States, whether you have status or you don't have status, you are protected by the Constitution and everything, the rights that are in there. They still pertain to you, okay? So a lot of times we have to step up and just say that we have these rights. But what was happening is that Venezuelans who the administration felt were gang members, okay, were being deported. Okay, now they're from Venezuela, right? But they were being deported to El Salvador. Okay, and they were being deported to El Salvador so that they could go to a facility that basically is going to keep them there without any sort of due process, for a facility that's basically going to lock them away to where nobody knows where they are. Okay, they're going to be like just almost anonymous, to a facility that's possibly going to torture them. All right. And like Guantanamo Bay. Okay, we all, they're trying to open up, or they have opened up Guantanamo Bay again, to deport particular sort of immigrants to the facility, so that at the end of the day, they will just be a no-named, washed away person. You guys, we're talking about human rights. Like that's a real thing. Human rights, and all of our human rights are going down the drain. You still have human rights. Like, you still have rights if you are undocumented. You still have rights if you are an immigrant. That doesn't pertain. I mean, that's not like just a US thing, okay? That's a real thing. And once again, it is being dismantled. And all of these human beings are, being taken away from their families. Their families don't even know, half of the time their families don't even know where they are. I get so many phone calls on trying to help people find where their family member is. All they'll say is, they were deported and we don't know where they are. Can you help? We can't, like, that's like trying to find a needle in a haystack, unfortunately. Um, yeah, it's time to step up. It is really, really time to write legislation, write your Congress members, just write whoever you need to write to, make phone calls, things like that, because this has to end. We are right now even looking at the part where the Supreme Court has ordered, well, one thing about the Venezuela situation. So the Supreme Court has ordered a stop, a pause, okay, in Venezuelans being sent to El Salvador. Okay. So they have ordered that pause. And from my understanding, it has been paused. The Supreme Court has ordered the return of some Venezuelans that were sent to El Salvador. Um, and but who knows if they're going to be returned, right? Yeah, the order might be there, but you know. But then also too, we have a situation where the new administration is totally defying Supreme Court orders. Okay. Now, this goes back to like separation of power. What is happening with our whole separation of powers? The Supreme Court is supposed to be able to make orders that the administration, the other branches of government adhere to. Okay. And he has totally defied some orders of the Supreme Court. Jailing judges. Y'all, what is that? What is that? There was a judge in Milwaukee who got jailed. She was put in jail because she was protecting an immigrant who was in her courtroom, that ICE tried to come in, disrupt her court proceedings, and take this person away. And she told them, no, get out of my courtroom. Okay. This is supposed to be the courts are supposed to be a protected space. All right. And she was put in jail. Y'all, the FBI came in and put her in jail. I feel like I'm living in the Twilight Zone. Like seriously, I feel like I'm living in the Twilight Zone. Um, it's gone far. I feel like what's happening is because he promised, okay, so many things that he was going to do, he is like adamant on doing it. He is adamant on, let's go. I'm going to do this. I promised it, and I'm going to show you all. Okay. What type of traits, okay, are those, I don't want to throw any words around, fascist and, all of that type of stuff, but let's think about this. Let's think about the definition. You can Google the definition, because clearly these are the type of traits that are being portrayed. And this is ultimately going to lead into a whole, unilateral, Tarian, type of society that we're living in. And, I always tell I tell my clients, I tell my, even like potential new clients and things like that, hopefully this is only 4 years, but at the end of the day, what type of damage, if you think about it, the damage that's being done now, what is going to happen, even if, okay, he leaves office in 4 years, the trickle down effect to the new administration is going to be huge and just, probably detrimental. So hopefully, maybe somebody would be able to come back and get things back rolling again. But who knows? All right, so let's see what else we have going on. We talked about due process. So everyone knows, and I hope you know, obviously, that the Fifth Amendment is that's our due process amendment. Okay. No person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without the due process of law. And all of these immigrants that are just being shipped away, just gone, vanished, things like that, they have not been able to get their say in court. That is huge. That is huge against their due process. So, all right, so let's go into what I need for you guys to do right now. And I've said this before, but I think this is very, very important because at the end of the day, you have to protect you and you have to protect your family. So some tips and tricks, all right? If you are riding in a vehicle, okay, if you are driving the vehicle, if you are riding in a vehicle and you are undocumented, or if you have a pending case, okay, you have already submitted your files for to get a petition, or if you are a naturalized citizen, you are a United States citizen, you have naturalized, but you may not sound like you're from the US, or you may not look like you're from the US, right? I need you to carry around paperwork. Of course, don't carry around your originals, okay? But like for instance, your naturalization certificate, all right? Make a copy, put it in your car, okay? So that you can show and prove that you're a US citizen. Your passport, make a copy, put it in your vehicle, make a copy of things, put them in your phone. Have family, friends and family who are US citizens have those copies of your paperwork and keep them with you. Okay, it's very, very important. We are seeing where people are getting stopped, okay, around the world. People are getting stopped. I know a gentleman who got stopped. He had his kids in the car. I think he was taking somebody to like school or something like that. They ended up taking him, putting him in, like taking him, jailing him for a while, like detaining him for a long period of time, okay? Just to find out that he was who he said he was and he was a United States citizen, okay? That's happened with even green card holders, the same thing. If you have a green card, you still have lawful presence here in the United States. You need to carry it around. You need to carry around your paperwork, all of that, because the same thing can happen. You might have your driver's license, right? Because when you have a green card, you get a driver's license, okay? But your driver's license doesn't necessarily prove that you have legal status. Your driver's license doesn't necessarily prove that you're a US citizen either. So you have to make sure that you carry around extra protection, extra paperwork, and it's sad. But these are the times that we're living in. So instead of just saying, this is stupid, I'm not doing this, that type of thing, you need to carry it, okay, and protect yourself. Another thing too is right now with families, you have your bank accounts here in the United States. You might have your 401ks because you've been working. You've been putting money aside, things like that. All of like those personal insurance, insurance policies, all of that. You have to make sure that you have another person on those accounts, okay? Whether it be, hopefully it's your wife or your partner, your significant other, so that they could get access, even stuff like, your social security and all of that. Make sure that there is another person on the account, whether it be a beneficiary, whether it be somebody that can access the account, someone that is a US citizen. Because if you get deported, understand that you're going back to another country and you're not going to have access, most likely, to those things and to all of the benefits that you had already here in the United States. So you have to cover yourself. You have to protect yourself. You have to go above and beyond. Nothing is stupid. Nothing is, overly, protective. Nothing is, I know a lot of times people say to me, stop fear mongering people and stop making them think, this, that, and the other. Well, I'm not doing that. I'm actually giving you whole hard knowledge, like this is what's needed to protect yourself. Okay. Another thing is that we're seeing with traveling. If you're a lawful permanent resident, you have a green card, you can travel. Caveat, you used to. right? You could just travel. You could go out the country, you could come back, you could go to your home, you could go anywhere in the world that you wanted to go. As long as obviously you didn't stay out of the country more than 6 months, because then that would, say that you're deeming your green card status here in the United States abandoned. But you could go and stay 5 months, 30 days, whatever it was, and come back. You could travel freely. In this administration, you don't have that luxury. Unfortunately, you just don't. And right now, it's almost like you're traveling at your own risk. You should travel, and this is, I mean, like out of the country, traveling at your own risk. You should travel maybe like on emergency, situations, family member might be sick, whatever it might be. But once again, because you are traveling at your own risk. There's been situations where, green card holders have been detained for long periods of time, not able to come back into the United States, for so many hours. And that's another thing too that I heard another attorney say one time. Um, if you really want to travel, okay, at this day and age, you need to make sure that you got quite a bit of money set aside to where if you get stuck out the country, okay, for an extended period of time because you can't come back for whatever reason, that you are able to fend for yourself and you've got the money to be able to do this. It's unfortunate, but once again, that's the times that we're living in. Um, they are, I mean, heck, they're jailing lawyers that have traveled and come back into the US. Um, they're going through your phones, y'all. Okay, this is a huge, huge, huge thing too. They're going through your phones. They're going through your phones at the airport. They're going through your phones as you try to enter back in. They want to see what you've been talking about. Okay. Now, my understanding with the cell phones, and this is just another tidbit. My understanding with the cell phones is that if you have a password on your cell phone that you, I guess, is what I'm hearing legally by law, you're supposed to give them your password. Okay. Um, if you have, I think the fingerprint or something like that, like you're supposed to put the fingerprint on there. If I remember correctly, there's like only one way that like you're protected, and it might be like, the scanning or something like that of your face or something like that. Um, I don't know, have all 3, 4, 5 protections on your cell phone if you decide that you're leaving and coming back, okay? Um, or, I'm not going to say, delete what's in there, because don't forget, somehow they can go into stuff that's deleted or whatever, and I don't even know because I'm not a techie person. But just don't have it in your phone, period. Okay. If you got some, beef, like with the man upstairs per se, or somebody else, just don't talk about it in your phone. Okay. Keep it just very simple. Your phone is used for, friends, family, texting, hee hee, ha ha, fun, nice pictures of vacations and so on and so forth, because they are going through your phone. Another thing that I wanted to talk about is, this kind of sort of goes back to obviously driving. So don't drive if you don't have to drive. Okay. Uber, we've got Ubers, we've got Lyfts, all that type of stuff. Also, too, I want you to remember your rights. There is a huge Know Your Rights campaign. You could probably go to any immigration attorney right now with the Know Your Rights, and ask them about Know Your Rights, and they'll give you a pamphlet, a flyer. They'll give you things that you can say, things not to say. All right. Because at the end of the day, you remember you still have rights. And one of the huge big rights is the right to remain silent. The right to remain silent. You don't have to say what country you're from if you are asked. you don't have to tell what your status is if you are asked. You have the right to remain silent. All right. Of course, if you get stopped by the police or whatever, don't, let's not go back and forth with the tit for tat, and don't resist and all that type of stuff, or even look like you're resisting, or, feel like you're resisting or whatever. Just, am I free to go? Am I being detained? No, I would prefer not answering that question, because you don't have to. That is one of the questions that you don't have to ask. Now, a lot of people are wondering about who's being targeted. Are Blacks being targeted? Is it only Hispanics being targeted? Things like that. Right now, what I am telling everyone is everyone has to be prepared, okay, and overly prepared, all right? Me, okay? I am a United States citizen, born and raised, right? All day, okay? But I still have a copy of my passport in my phone, okay? And that's what I suggest everyone does. If you were raised in the US, you are Black, you are Hispanic, you are Asian, you are any other nationality that maybe sort of doesn't look, carry something, carry proof with you. Carry your passport. Like I said, don't do the originals, because those can get taken away. Those can get lost. But carry copies. Carry copies of everything. Funny story is I was at I think I don't know, I think I was at the dentist or something like that. And one of the techs was talking to me, and she is, she's Hispanic, but she naturalized. Okay. She's, been here all of her life since she was little. And she was telling a story about a friend of hers who, got pulled over driving, and it was a legitimate, traffic stop. I think, she, might have, she did something, whatever, stop sign or disregard, or a red light or something like that. And she literally got questioned for about, I think it was almost like 30 minutes. 30 minutes. And they finally let her go, but she had to do all of this stuff to prove that she was a US citizen. I don't even know if you guys have heard online. There was something in the news, I think it was, about a couple that was in a restaurant. I think they were speaking Spanish or something like that. And ICE rolled up on them and questioned them, and they were US citizens. So it is ridiculous right now. Don't forget, people are here from Nigeria. People are here from Haiti. People are here for, there's, dark skin, Dominicans, all of that type of stuff. We are all, Black. And but there's some people that are raised here, born here, some people that have not been. And so you just have to protect yourself. And like I said, don't think that it's going overboard by having all this, extra proof. I just want you to say, okay, I remember that there was some attorney online, and she told me that I needed to have copies of this, and those copies saved me when I got pulled over, or I got stopped by the police, or for whatever reason somebody comes to my house. That's another thing too. Don't forget, if ICE comes to your house, you do not have to open the door. You don't. You do not have to let them in unless they have a valid warrant, and the warrant has to be signed by the judge, and you have to see the warrant with your own eyes, okay? So at the end of the day, I just want I want everybody to be informed. That is what this network is for. You know what I'm saying? It is for the community. It is for you all to be informed on all different spectrums of, laws and community, and, just everything that makes us a community. So Please follow us. Please like us. Please go to WCEGtalkradio.com. Please follow us on all social media. You can follow me. I am on all social media, TikTok, I don't know, whatever, TikTok, IG, Facebook, all that type of stuff. It is at LaGrone Law. And, once again, if you do not know what your options are, make sure that you reach out to a reputable immigration attorney. Book that consultation, you guys, even if it is paid. Yes, book the consultation because you are getting our knowledge and strategy so that you can figure out what you have, what your options are moving forward. And I just want to say this, even if you don't think you have an option, okay? Because I had a young lady call me the other day, and it was when we got started talking, it looked like she had no options. But I kept digging and digging and digging and asking questions and asking questions, and we finally found a way. And she has an option to be able to stay here legally in the US. So call a reputable immigration attorney. And when I say reputable, you guys do your research. Look at reviews, go online, look at social media, look at what they're talking about, and then, cross-reference what they're talking about and things like that. And give them a call so that you can figure out what your options are, because now is the time to act. All right. So I am attorney Melanie LaGrone with LaGrone Law. You can reach me at 678-250-5449. We also have an office in the U.S. Virgin Islands in St. Thomas, and that has a separate telephone number, which is 340-626-0778. And we are here for you. We're in this together, and we are going to deal with these next 4 years the best way that we can deal with them. I want to thank everybody for viewing the show, and we will see you in a couple weeks. And again, the telephone number here in Georgia is 678-250-5449, and we are able to represent anybody in the 50 states for immigration matters, okay? And we also have our St. Thomas number, U.S. Virgin Islands, which is 340-626-0778. Until next time, y'all. Bye.